I found all the hidden gods in the Bible. So you don't have to. We think we know the Bible's stories, one God, one creator. But hidden in the language are traces of a time when the divine world was crowded. Take the name Israel. In Hebrew, Yisrael means he who strives with God. The El at the end, that's the name of a god. El was the ancient father god of Canaan, and his name is woven into the very identity of the chosen people. The journey to monotheism wasn't a straight line. It was a gradual process, with other gods and goddesses once worshipped by the ancestors of Israel. Their stories were edited, their names changed, but they never fully vanished. To find them, we look at archaeology, ancient languages, and the Bible itself, not just for what it says, but for what it leaves unsaid. The name Israel is our first clue, pointing to a forgotten pantheon that shaped the spiritual landscape of the region. This isn't about undermining faith, but about understanding how our ideas of God evolved. By uncovering these lost gods, we discover the roots of our own spiritual questions. What is the nature of God? How do beliefs change over time? The story of Israel's God begins in a world already full of gods. The journey to one God is a story of conflict, synthesis, and transformation. Let's follow the clues and see where they lead. The name Israel is just the beginning. Before Israel, there was Canaan, a land ruled by a family of gods. At the top sat El, the wise patriarch, father of gods, and king of the divine assembly. El's consort was Asherah, the mother goddess, and together they presided over a council of 70 divine children. Among them, Baal, the storm god Mot, god of death Yam, god of the sea. Their stories, found in Ugaritic texts, are filled with drama and rivalry. Early Israelites were culturally Canaanite, speaking the language, using the pottery and worshipping Canaanite gods. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is called El Shaddai, El Elyon, El Olam, titles once used for the Canaanite father god. The patriarchs weren't introducing a new god, they were forging a relationship with the highest god they knew. The idea of a single, exclusive god hadn't yet emerged. Israel's journey began by choosing one god from many as their special protector. The father of the gods was about to become the god of a people. The early stories of Genesis reflect this shared spiritual heritage. The Israelites' faith grew from the soil of Canaanite religion. The path to monotheism started with a family of gods. El's legacy lived on in the God of Israel. The transformation was just beginning. If the early Israelites worshipped El, where did Yahweh come from? Yahweh's name first appears in the story of Moses and the burning bush. I appeared as El Shaddai, but by my name Yahweh I was not known. This passage fuses two identities, Yahweh and El, into one. Scholars suggest Yahweh may have been a desert god, a stormy warrior from the south. Unlike the distant El, Yahweh was fiery, passionate, and led his people in battle. Over time, Yahweh absorbed El's titles and stories, becoming the Father of years, the Creator, the King. The Bible shows the seams. Sometimes God is called El or Elohim, sometimes Yahweh. Eventually, the two merged so completely that the distinction vanished. Yahweh wore the robes of El, combining wisdom and power. This fusion was a turning point. Yahweh became the supreme God, inheriting the authority of the old Father God. The process was gradual, but the result was a single, complex deity. The road to monotheism ran through this divine merger. The God of Israel was now both the ancient patriarch and the passionate liberator. The transformation set the stage for a new kind of faith. Yahweh had become El and more. In ancient times, gods rarely ruled alone. El had Asherah, the queen of heaven. Asherah was a powerful mother goddess, symbolized by sacred trees and lions. For years, scholars thought Asherah was foreign to Israel, but archaeology tells a different story. Inscriptions from Kuntilat Ajrud and Hebron bless people by Yahweh and his Asherah. These weren't curses. They were everyday blessings, showing Asherah as Yahweh's consort. The Bible mentions Asherah often, usually condemning her worship, but her popularity was undeniable. Asherah poles stood in the temple for centuries. For many, praying to Yahweh and Asherah was normal. As monotheism took hold, reformers erased her memory, casting her as a foreign abomination. Her sacred symbols were destroyed, her name suppressed. Yet, traces of Asherah survive in archaeology and in the very condemnations meant to erase her. The lost Queen of Heaven remains a ghostly presence in Israel's story. Her erasure marks a key step toward a single male god. Baal, the storm god, was the most popular and dynamic deity in Canaan. He brought rain and fertility, vital in an agricultural society. Baal's worship was vibrant, and for many Israelites, he was the lord of life-giving rains. This made him Yahweh's chief rival. The Bible frames this as a spiritual war, most famously in Elijah's contest on Mount Carmel. Later scribes edited out Baal's influence, even changing names to erase his memory. Yahweh didn't just defeat Baal, he absorbed Baal's powers. Titles once used for Baal, like Rider on the Clouds, were given to Yahweh. By taking Baal's attributes, Yahweh became the all-powerful storm god. The people no longer needed another lord. The early Bible doesn't picture God alone, but presiding over a divine council. This echoes the Canaanite assembly, with El at the head and 70 divine children. In Psalm 82, God stands in the council of gods, judging them. In Job, the sons of God present themselves before Yahweh. Even Genesis says, "Let us make mankind in our image," a nod to the council. Deuteronomy, in its oldest form, describes El dividing nations among the sons of God, with Yahweh assigned to Israel. Each nation had its own patron deity. Yahweh was Israel's God, not yet the only God. The divine council was a stage between polytheism and monotheism. The shift to one God was still to come. Yahweh's rise from local God to universal king is a story of transformation. Early on, Yahweh was Israel's national God, while other nations had their own deities. The first commandment, "No other gods before me," assumes a world full of gods. The shift began with the crises of conquest and exile. Prophets reimagined Yahweh as the God of all nations, using empires as instruments of his will. Isaiah declared, "I am Yahweh, and there is no other." The old divine council was demoted. The sons of God became angels, no longer rival deities. The heavenly court was reorganized under one God. The pantheon became a celestial bureaucracy. Yahweh was now the king of the universe. The transformation was complete, from one God among many to the only God. The old gods were not erased, but redefined. Monotheism had arrived. Monotheism wasn't born overnight, it evolved over centuries. The Bible records this journey from a Canaanite pantheon to a single God. El and Asherah ruled first, then Yahweh merged with El, and Asherah was erased. Baal was defeated, his powers absorbed. The divine council became a court of angels. Historical crises pushed Yahweh from national God to universal ruler. The other gods were declared non-existent, mere idols. All divine power was concentrated in one being. This transformation shaped Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The Bible's layers reveal the story of how one God emerged from many. It's one of history's most profound religious revolutions. Uncovering these hidden stories doesn't diminish the Bible, it deepens our understanding. The Bible is a record of real people wrestling with the biggest questions. Who are we? What is the divine? Faith is not static. It evolves just as the God of the Bible did. Our search for God is a process of reflection shaped by culture and experience. The story of the Bible's lost gods invites us to read with curiosity and openness. The search for God is a journey, not a destination. By listening for the echoes of El, Asherah, and Baal, we see our own questions reflected in theirs. The conversation continues a never-ending search for meaning and the divine.